This is the Automotive Repair Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Automotive Field Theory, where we explore the principles, systems, and forces shaping our profession. I'm your host, Matt Fanslow, and when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible. That and more after a word from our sponsors, Pico Technology and Autel. Autel is a global developer and manufacturer of award-winning professional automotive diagnostic tools and service equipment, trusted by technicians, educators, and shop owners across North America. With diagnostics at their core, Autel's real-world solutions support repair workflows ranging from full-system vehicle diagnostics to servicing the most advanced automotive technologies. What sets Autel North America apart is the team behind the tools. Dedicated experts across sales, training, and technical support, each bringing deep, hands-on experience supporting professional technicians. When questions arise, you're working with people who understand the vehicles, the procedures, and the real-world demands of modern repair. Whether diagnosing complex drivability concerns, servicing TPMS systems, validating repairs, or working with ADAS and advanced safety technologies, Autel tools are engineered to support accurate, efficient repairs in strict accordance with OEM procedures and standards. To learn more about Autel and their diagnostic solutions, visit autel.com, AUTEL.com. All right. Well, I'd like to welcome a guest to the podcast for episode 250. This was unplanned, actually, or at least the episode number. We've been talking about doing an episode together for at least 15 minutes. Now she's leaving the podcast, so that's really how everything works. Home improvement on the fly. You could have just said the shade was partially open, and who would have argued?
It looks like the shades are down.
They don't. You'd have to have intimate knowledge of those. And we should be a little more entertaining than the shades. Which kind of, I guess, now everyone knows that if you see them, you're very judgy.
Cut that out.
Oh, yeah, they'll leave you fixing the shades, but cut that out, the good stuff? Okay. Anyways, this is my wife, Danielle. Say hi, Danielle.
Yeah. Hi.
She has a master's in social work. She's also masterful in many other things like tolerance.
This is true.
She's also an acronym that means licensed alcohol and drug counselor. And she probably has more acronyms yet.
Which the acronym is LADC.
LADC.
Yeah.
But I said it right. That's all that matters.
Yeah, you said what the acronym is.
I think I could have came up with the acronym LADC, but I struggle sometimes and say licensed drug and alcohol counselor.
Yes. Yep, you got that right.
So
LADCS supervisor and LGSW.
It's not plural?
No.
Oh, okay.
LGSW, licensed graduate social worker. Just means I'm licensed by the state of Minnesota, and then I have my MSW.
I think I got a job title with acronym SOB.
Yep.
So
I agree.
So
my full name, Danielle Fanslow, MSW, LGSW, LADCS. I paid a lot of money to have that.
That's why you use both sides of your business card.
Yes. Yeah.
Mine only needs one side.
Oh.
Nobody wants my business card anyways. And then when they ask, I don't have any on me anyways. I have a box of them somewhere.
We're the same.
No idea where.
Yes.
It's like, why would you want my card?
Just give me your phone.
Yeah. 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 Anyways, I guess we thought, or at least ChatGPT thought, I'm just kidding. It would be interesting to discuss diagnostics. Maybe how in her field of social work, mental health, substance use disorder, stuff like that, she diagnoses people as psycho. I'm just kidding. But she diagnoses people, and we diagnose people and cars. But I think there's parallels, right? So quite a few episodes ago, arguably a few years ago, I had a friend of mine from high school, Dr. Jamie Jakish, on, and we talked a little bit about the parallels of diagnostics from his field of being an internist. And now it's to social work. And that's where you come in,
Oh,
amazingly enough.
this friend does what?
No, you're my wife. My friend was a doctor.
Oh,
I don't think he lost his license. He's
I
still a
missed.
doctor.
I missed the.
What was to miss? A few years. We talked about diagnostics. We're talking about diagnostics.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
It's all the same,
Oh, okay. Yes.
except you don't have VIN numbers and your service information doesn't lie to you. And
Yeah.
wait
I'm
a
just
minute.
wondering where this friend came in.
I got a good one. So, when it comes to practices, and I think it's something you're very passionate about when it comes to like ethics
Mhm.
and procedure. And there's probably a better word than both of those. But do people in your profession, social workers, if that's a good, more umbrella term for at least conversation's sake, that you follow a process and there is we'll just say a published either diagnosis or protocol?
Mhm. Yeah. So we follow. I mean, it depends, right? Because there's different practices, meaning like substance use treatment, right? Has their just process that they go through, and then mental health therapy practices depending. And I've mainly been an outpatient, so they have theirs. And one thing that I think, at least the places that I've been, the one place in Northfield that I interned had something called the Golden Thread, which it's out there. Like, I've looked into this, and mental health treatments have their own golden thread, but most of them are the same. And so I would say for substance use treatment, at least the ones in this area really haven't, like, they have a process, but nothing that's like just like an easy way to follow for everybody. And so, yeah, I think that's best practice, is to kind of have that golden thread, and you start with the client or whoever is coming in the door, and you sit down and have the assessment with them, right? A lot of times they'll get like paperwork before or whatever, and then we'll review that. And I would say that's the same for both. And then go into the assessment process, diagnose, right? And that's a little bit different, I would say, between the two practices, and they're just side note, right? Other thought is that recently DHS, state of Minnesota, they seem to be like trying to meld them a little bit, where before it was completely separate.
Huh.
So it was like mental health still had this stigma, but not as bad as substance use. So substance use bad, put them in the corner, and we really will just
Dang.
kind of neglect their processes. And then mental health systems kind of had a better, well-oiled machine. Nothing's perfect in this world, behavioral health treatment world, right? But yeah, so one of the things in the assessment is, for substance use counselor, depending, you just get really good at like withdrawal symptoms and being able to recognize that, and kind of being able to recognize bullshit. And
Sorry, children.
yeah, delving that out, where now melding this, they're saying, DHS is like, well, mental health therapists can diagnose substance use disorders, right? Which they can, they absolutely can. However, the experience and the education that they got wasn't in, like, assessing substance use disorders, right? Even in the class that I was in, they had it wasn't even a full semester. It was probably 2 weeks on substance use disorders. And so now just hearing and finding that that's difficult and people are kind of panicking about that. So in that process, right, of the golden thread, they're panicking because they're trying to meld these two systems, but not actually educating on what that means and how to do that. Now you're going to have your, good licensed professionals, that not a problem. But I think that's scary for substance use counselors out there. Anyway, so you have that assessment piece and then recommendations, diagnosing. It gets a little iffy what people do, because it's not just like do this checkbox, right? It's like, do you sit down and talk to the client about what their diagnosis is, what you're recommending, why their diagnosis is what it is? And that doesn't always happen, but that would be the best practice, I guess, where you sit down, you have this conversation, you tell them exactly why you diagnosed what you diagnosed, how you got there, and then the recommendations that you feel would be best as a professional, your professional recommendation. And then you recommend that, they go to treatment. And then once they do that intake process for treatment and going in, what you're supposed to do is already be talking about discharge as well, like when they're going to be walking out the door. So like, yep, you just got here, and let's talk about what the future in treatment looks like and when you discharge and what you're going to do. Now, many times that step gets missed altogether. And then it's, a lot of these one size fits all, like, well, we're a 6-month program, so you're going to be in here for 6 months and then discharge. And that might not be what somebody needs. So it gets really messy there. And I do think one thing that DHS is now saying is like, you need to follow evidence-based, which is individualizing care and doing that. So yeah, it's the whole process done.
So is Google one of those accepted because Google said so?
What does that mean?
Well, you just punch in, 39-year-old
Oh,
female presents with this story and these symptoms, and then you just go with it.
like if a client were to do that and then decide that was
No,
what
I
meant
mean,
that?
as a professional, because we're unlicensed, and then I don't know if it actually says that on the repair order, but it happens.
Yeah.
It was more of a joke, except it's kind of not of a joke, because I think it really does happen. And then our golden thread, we have original equipment manufacturer service information that often tells us, maybe not, I mean, it'll give us a diagnostic process, but really when it comes to the repair, the recommended repair, or I guess borderline, I guess you would say required, or this is how to go about doing this, or what needs to be done. I used an example from a podcast with Carm on his show with Keith Perkins. I brought up an analogy using a Ford vehicle that requires certain bolts to be replaced. All it says in service information is that they need to be discarded. But there's quite a few out there that are okay with not doing that. They've reasoned, logicked, or been told by somebody that they look up to or trust that really the only reason they need to be replaced is that there's a thread locker that needs to be reapplied. Yet there's nothing official in the manufacturer's service information stating that this is a valid repair or the reason why you need to replace these bolts. And I'm not really on one about that specific thing.
Right.
But it's really how really okay many of the professionals are deviating from a published procedure.
Right, like skip the step.
Right.
Like they just are like, well, I can skip that step, right? Yeah.
So
That
again,
makes me
we're not licensed. At least the vast majority of us aren't required to be licensed. There's, I think, Michigan for sure, and then certain counties, I think, throughout the country maybe require certain licenses. But I'm just wondering, in your field, do professionals deviate from what would be the consensus? Because you don't really have original equipment manufacturer specifications or
procedures. And if you do, you guys have been holding out on us for a long time, and you guys could have saved so many conflicts. That's a joke. And yeah.
Yeah. So I think for like, as far as procedures, there's obvious procedures that should happen and maybe even need to happen, but absolutely they just skip over them. Or I'm just thinking like one of the things I was talking about with DHS and requiring that best practice. So there is that, and many of the people that put these like procedures in place, right, haven't worked in the field either. And so it would be great to see everybody do things at least that the process in a very similar or the exact same way every time and follow it step by step. And maybe this is what's different, is that it doesn't happen, but like very important things don't happen. And the requirements are so, and maybe this, you can relate to this, where the requirements to do said steps or whatever are a lot. And then it's like you have all these people that you're trying to take care of, and this isn't even in residential. I don't, like residential has, even more requirements, meaning, right, they stay there and live there and are kind of at you all the time. But outpatient isn't like that. And so, but there's still all these little things that these markers that you have to hit. And then you have this giant caseload, and it's kind of like, all right, what can I cut out? Maybe it is the conversation about the diagnosis and going through that and helping the client understand, because that gives you back 20 minutes so that you can do the next thing, which is the entire assessment, right? Like typing all of that out. And then it's kind of like, all right, let's get this person the recommendations and send them out the door, or send them to the next step in the process, right? So.
Yeah, and these questions, I guess, or this conversations, I've been leaning more into kind of the solution rather than the actual diagnosis part or the diagnostic analysis. And that's kind of what the aim of the episode really was. So, in my world, yeah, I suppose we could follow the, OEM procedure for diagnosing something. That isn't always the most reasonable thing to do, which I know kind of almost sounds like a contradiction. But in one case, if you don't follow a diagnostic procedure, the worst thing that's going to happen is you misdiagnose it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the really bad part would be if you charge the client for this.
Mm-hmm.
The flip side is oftentimes if you understand how the system works, you can come up with your own diagnostic strategy that is much faster and more accurate. Unfortunately, if we're thinking about the OE procedure, the vehicle manufacturer's procedure, it's hard to predict every failure. I mean, it just really is, or have it all published.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact of the matter is that they do rely on us as professionals to learn how a system is designed to work and how its operating characteristics are. And then, are they going to outright say, oh, yeah, just come up with your own process? I doubt it, but I've never really heard any big pushback on it where it's like, hey, you did not follow this fault plan.
Mm-hmm.
Too bad. I could see a warranty concern, of course.
Right.
Independent world, it's not high on our priority list because we're rarely doing warranty work at least for the manufacturer. So the process is getting the vehicle information, getting the symptoms from the client, like or the vehicle owner, what don't I like? What seems wrong? And then gathering that information, verifying that. I don't know that we necessarily need an example, but your vehicle, you notice that it idles rough, check engine light's on, maybe it flashes sometimes. It's not right. Your fuel mileage is down. So you bring it in. Hey, my car runs rough and that check engine light thingy is flashing, or I have a yellow light on, or on a lot of modern cars, the instrument cluster is lit up like a Christmas tree. Like it seems like
Yes.
every light is on, right?
Really, that's the picture that I send to you every time.
Every time she leaves the gas cap on.
Yes.
That's a lie because her vehicle does not have a gas cap.
No, it doesn't.
That's why
But
the light's on all the time.
it
Just
does
I,
light up
I
like
gotta
a
stop.
Christmas tree, and he at least has 3 photos of it in his text thread.
Yeah, and then I tell her like, figure it out. Leave me
Yeah,
alone.
right.
Yeah, I
Diagnose
bought
cars, I
her
diagnose people.
bought her a scan tool and everything. Leave me alone. God, the answer is right
Doesn't teach
there.
me how to use it, but
I mean, just the code equals the part. Everybody knows that. No. Anyways, yeah. So then we're gathering information. Well, okay. We don't talk to the car directly yet. It's going to happen. But the scan tool is kind of the way, right? That's how we interface with the vehicle itself, and it's going to give us some clues. Of course, our other senses are going to give us clues.
Mhm.
And then there's a process we're going to follow, whether it's manufacturer driven or something we've created on our own based on what we know on how the systems work. We'll say in this case it's a misfire. We have ways to test the ignition system and the fuel system and the engine mechanical integrity to finally arrive at a conclusion that we should be able to say to the vehicle owner, this is what's wrong, this is why we think is what's wrong, and this is the solution to your problem, and this is why we recommend this. So
Mhm.
we'll just say, for instance, it's a ignition misfire. We recommend spark plug because of, they're 150,000 miles on them, and the ignition coil on one cylinder is now bad, most likely due to the spark plug being worn and stressing it out over time. And then because of the nature of the misfire being ignition, we recommend an oil change or, oil maintenance service, whatever you want to call that. And we can back that up with some data, whether it's waveforms. Even though you may not know what the waveform is, you could see, this is what yours looks like, or this is what the bad cylinder looks like. This is what a normal one looks like.
Mhm.
And you don't have to know exactly what that waveform looks like,
Right.
but you can see one of these things doesn't look like the other. And then hopefully with trust, you're like, okay, let's go ahead. And now they can show you an after photo like, hey, that cylinder that was bad, that coil that was bad. Now the new one, here's what it looks like. Oh, wow, it looks like all the others, or that other good one they said. And you get in it and your butt sensor tells you, hey, this thing is running smoothly, the lights are off. Yay.
Mhm.
They didn't take me to the cleaners because I'm a woman.
I guess I was gonna ask, like, do you go out and actually explain that? Like, I'm just thinking in this
That's what
process.
ChatGTPs were.
Oh,
No, I'm just kidding.
like,
No,
I'm
no,
just
no.
thinking, do people get upset if you walk out there and you're like, "Okay, this is what I found?" Like, I just think the average person probably doesn't know much about automotive, and so are they upset when you tell them, unless it's like, maybe that's something simple and doesn't cost a lot, but if it's like, 1, are you saying all that to the customer? 2, if you did, are they like, "Well, I don't wanna pay for all that. Can you have, like, a reroute some other way?" Or
Yeah, they'll be like, "Can we use used for spark plugs?" Or
Yeah, yeah.
actually,
Something
I
else.
wish that was a joke. It's not. They do. On occasion, I'll be the one to present that, depending on the situation and depending on specifically what the problem was. And
You'll
that,
present that to the
what,
client, like,
right?
or to the customer, I guess.
Yeah, what I just said in that scenario, most likely not. A service advisor or a customer service rep most likely will present that,
Hmm.
and I'll have printed waveforms or emailed it to them, and
Oh, okay.
they'll be able to go through that a little bit. And then
Yeah.
if the customer wants to know more, then maybe I come out and explain more. It's really rare. Mostly it's a trust thing, and I don't need to know. What do you think is wrong with it? Okay, you think that'll fix it? Okay,
Hmm.
please go ahead with it. And then the proof in the pudding is when you're done, did it really fix it or not? And but on occasion, yeah, some clients or customers really do want to know, and usually that's early on in a relationship that
Hmm.
they kind of want that reinforcement, if you will. And I mean, I get it. We have no issues at all presenting that data. And even like if it ends up being wrong, like we'll just say on some fluke deal, we do the spark plugs in the coil and the misfire does not go away and it ends up I don't know, a fuel injector is bad. It's hard to get away from something that's obviously bad, obviously can cause this issue, and it's just some really odd occurrence. You have two issues. Here's the proof, like this coil was bad. And now, oh, it looks like there is something else going on. It's one, that scenario is super, super, super rare.
Right.
And through the normal process, a lot of them you're checking anyways. So it eliminates that as a possibility, but kind of trying to create a scenario where the diagnosis, even though you had every reason to believe that this is what was causing the problem, something else is causing it because you've demonstrated why and shown them, they're much better about you now getting to the next, step or cause, saying like, I had every reason to do this. Here's why. And then again, this is so rare. It's so rare, but just as an example, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just made me think of, like, if I were to diagnose somebody with alcohol use disorder, and usually that's their solution, right, to the problem, and then it just made me think of, like, and then to come find out, right, like, either they were hiding something or something else happened, or maybe that's really not the issue and it's mental health, right? Like, their mental health is causing this alcohol use, which usually it is. Some mental health driven is why you're using in the first place. But then I'm thinking about this, really the trusting relationship. And so I guess for us, right, like, we do the assessment right away. Like, we have to build the relationship within that time that we're also diagnosing, because, and sometimes people, I mean, depending on where they're at, but in, like, stages of change and whatnot. But, it's doing both, and then so by the time the results come through, which sometimes it's just right after, like, it's okay, we get to the end, hey, this is what I think. This is what I think you need, and this is why. But if we don't kind of have that personality or that trust within them, then a lot more rebuttals, unless they're ready, unless they're like, all right, I'll do whatever,
Yeah.
And so for you guys, you said something like, we really only get, like, questioned if they don't trust us yet. And so, I mean, I would think that a lot of people, and maybe I'm wrong, but they come in for the first time and maybe have something majorly wrong. Then what do you do? I mean, do they fire back, or are they, because they're so oblivious? I don't know. I just imagine that I'm oblivious to cars and things, so I guess I'm hoping that the person I bring it to, it just knows what they're doing, and that I can drive away and I don't have any lights on, and that whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. One is
Do you build that
they
trust with
may
them?
not,
Or yeah.
they may not know. They may not have much mechanical aptitude or knowledge of vehicles or vehicle systems. And then there's loss of trust because the reputation of auto repair is not great.
Mhm.
And you now also add almost fuel to the fire, have this resource available, multiple resources, right? We have to kind of separate a Google search from using some large language model. So now they're more apt to trust either one of those. I'll lump like a YouTube video in with Google searches, and then the large language models. I'll kind of their separate thing, even though they might draw on the similar resources, they just have access to way more of it and present it to us differently. So they come in thinking they're educated
Mhm.
and guarding themselves against getting taken advantage of. The problem is when the large language model or the Google search is faulty or wrong, or they searched poorly and got bad results. Now we're pushing back against that. There's a major trust issue, and it's basically saying like, okay, I'm, asking you to kind of wager on me or let me show you. It's all you can do, right? This is the data. This is why I want to do that. This is why I think this is incorrect. This is why I think my solution will work. Yeah, does the business being around for a good amount of time, building up a fair number of positive reviews, online reviews help? Yes.
Sure.
But there are people, they push back very hard. Some of them do have mechanical aptitude, but it may be dated or outside of the scope of their understanding or knowledge and experience. And then there's those that I think a lot of it's just fear of being taken advantage of, fear of being lied to. It's just, I guess I try to press upon them for a small business in a small town. It's a really, really, really bad business model for us to take advantage of our customers. It's
Right.
just, it's not good long term for
Yeah.
us. We can't afford to do it. Do we make mistakes? Yeah, I guess I reserve the right to be human.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, our best interest is to give you as good of a service experience as possible, and that's for us to make the right call and give you the proper repair, right? The least expensive way for you to maintain your vehicle or get your vehicle back in running order is to fix it the right way once.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a lot of it's driven by fear primarily, and then yeah, the resources available to them, if not utilized properly, can lead them astray, and they will trust them more than us. And them being, again, like Google, YouTube,
Oh,
large
sure.
language models.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. So it made me think that it's different. So you said where it doesn't make sense for you to take advantage of your customers, right? And you would think the same for clients, and it doesn't. I mean, it really doesn't. But insurance has made sure, right, that we can't, but it still has happened, and Minnesota has seen a lot of cases where there's so much fraud being committed within this behavioral health world, and so it's still not working.
Yeah.
But yeah, even all the regulations and everything that somebody can think of to put up without having every clinician or, quit, still doesn't avoid that where a place can be untrusting, right?
Yeah.
Or untrusted. And it just, one of the things is, like, there's really great clinicians out there that wouldn't do that. Like, our model across the board, and this is for mental health or substance use or both co-occurring, right? That we recommend the least restrictive care that we can, reasonably that we can, right? That's medical necessity. And so we try to do that. But ultimately, I think this is where another thing comes in where, well, if you have a business that's kind of bad at managing money, right? Or maybe just doesn't have the funds because insurance rates haven't changed since, I don't know, I think I was told I haven't looked, but it's been over 20 years since insurance reimbursements have changed. So it's really, really difficult to keep doors open that way.
Wow.
And obviously, if you charge at the rate that it probably should be, well, now you can do that, but you have to take self-pay or commercial insurance. Sometimes maybe it will reimburse a little bit more, but ultimately it's nothing. So you have you have the admin or leadership staff trying to scramble to make sure that they're at least keeping the doors open, employees paid. But then there's that fine line. Are we, and I'm running into this recently where are you, you want to have this many hours of treatment prescribed to the client. Like, that's what it needs to be so that you guys don't lose. I mean, it ends up being hundreds of thousands of dollars based on some of the changes. So you can prescribe that many services, but what if that person only needs this much? Are you going to decide that, oh, I'm sending them to this, many hours of treatment because that's how we keep our doors open? Like, is that ethical or not? And so that's just something recently, because the reimbursement rate dropped for one of the services. And then, up in the DHS world where they're like, well, yeah, but now you can have more people in there. Well, it doesn't really work that way. I mean, is that ethical? So we run into a lot of ethical situations, I think, in this behavioral health. And sometimes it's not, right? Like, it wouldn't make sense for us to take advantage of the client. But then what if they don't know? And I think, the economy has made that a real, solution for even clinicians who shouldn't be taking advantage of clients or the system, right? We can fight against the system, but otherwise aligning with it and helping the client, right? Like there's different tiers for social work. If you're on the micro level, it's just about the client. But what if you also have a business and you open that business and now you can't make the money that you need to make because of this? And so do I just, oh, well, you need this much. Like this is what and they might not know. And so then now they're in treatment all this time. All this money is coming, not all this money, but
Right.
money's coming in that really it's fraud. I mean, ultimately, but you can't be in so many places at once. So like I own a business. I'm also trying to work with clients. Now I'm on these two different levels. Well, reimbursement rates aren't enough. So am I going to go and work on policies now? Like, so how can we be in all these different places at once to make changes? And it's just kind of this troublesome door, I guess, that keeps revolving. So it's still not beneficial to take advantage of the client, but or the customer.
Yeah, insurance for us, like we do deal with insurance companies, but it's usually under more very specific circumstances. It's not a normal everyday thing, except with shops like collision shops. They themselves have to deal with them directly, and then because of our involvement with collision shops, we kind of get a taste of that. And it sounds very similar to what you're running into with where the insurance companies are trying to really dictate a repair, and it may deviate from what one would consider proper.
Mm-hmm.
Not always. It's not to like just demonize all the insurance companies, but there are cases where, yeah, that's not the right way to do this. We can't do that. And had vehicles towed out because we won't, quote unquote, fix it that way.
Oh, sure.
The other thing is, I was thinking as you're talking that we're gathering information, right? We're going to gather a certain amount of information from the vehicle owner, what their experience with the vehicle. And then we get information from the vehicle. In some cases, like as an independent, working in an independent repair shop, I almost liken what we do more to a veterinarian than like a doctor, right? Where you have, the pet owner or like parent now. I don't know what the new acceptable term is for somebody that has pets, but the pet
I
owner.
didn't know that changed.
Everything changes.
Oh, okay.
But the pet owner, right? They're going to come in and say that, whatever, the dog's lethargic, or the cat, or the cow, or the horse, or, right? We have all these different animals. For an independent repair shop is all these different vehicles, and they have many things in common, right? They got hearts and brains and whatever, but there's certain things that are different, right? Their cardiovascular system might not be the same, right? Their digestive system might not be the same across the board. They may all have stomachs or, stomach singular and stomachs plural, depending on the species, right? So we have that, but we can gather more and more information. And I'm not saying we can always get all the information we need, or at least easily, but it seems to me, I guess where I'm going with this is now you have the actual system that may be broken. And I'm using system to be the person, or we'll strictly say like emotional regulation or something like that. That system's, I know that's a terrible way to phrase that actually, but that system's not working quite right. That they can sit and tell you all these things, what medications they're on, their experiences, what it feels like when they're dysregulated, all these things, right, as best they can, or they're not telling you the truth, or they may not be fully aware of everything at play. Like they may not be fully aware of the trauma that they've experienced. Therefore, I guess it's something I've heard you say many, many times. I've heard Margaret Light say many, many times, and other therapists and counselors all say, when they talk to a client, like, tell me a little bit about your childhood. Oh, it was normal, or it was good.
Yep.
And then they get to talking about stories. Tell me, a fond memory with your grandparents or your dad or your mom or family outing, or tell me something that wasn't so great. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Right.
And they're like, what? That was a happy memory.
Yeah. Yep.
So to me, that offers a lot of hurdles. And how soon do you come up with like a diagnosis, and then that diagnosis may evolve over time?
Yeah, I mean, so initially, especially in the therapy world, I would say that diagnosis evolves differently. So ultimately, you have to have a diagnosis to bill insurance. And so that's another,
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's another issue. And it has to be certain diagnoses and, whatnot. So for therapy, yeah, a lot of times they come in and it's like you kind of are leaning some sort of way, but you have so many sessions to get this assessment done. And so you just kind of like ultimately generalized anxiety, right? Like you have anxiety. Here's these symptoms that you fit so we can kind of put that out there. And then truth be told, now thinking of this, the diagnosis doesn't matter as much as the treatment.
Yeah.
And so no matter what diagnosis anybody has, it's what are you doing differently, or are you getting the right kind of help or whatnot? Like I do kind of agree where it's like diagnoses can negatively impact people's lives, right? So they can use it as like, well, it's my anxiety, I can't do this anymore, right? Or it's this or that. And well, if they would have went next door to a different clinician, they might have diagnosed them with depression. So then is it that or right? So it doesn't matter, yeah, as much as what symptoms are you presenting with and what symptoms do you even want help with. And so if we could do it like that and just have a treatment plan, I think that's what clinicians would opt for, because otherwise it's really just a label. You might not want help for certain things. And so sometimes we can, it could get really focused on like, well, this is your problem. But they're telling me, like, I'll give an example. And yes, they do evolve over time, but I'll give this example. So I had a client, Mexican American female, and she came in. I did her assessment and she described like, the relationships with her mom and dad and children, and then relationships with like the children's dad and things like that. And then that was during the time ICE is up in Minnesota. And so there's a lot of things going on. And then she was diagnosed with ADHD and is taking medication for ADHD. And then had something, maybe it was another diagnosis in there, but wasn't significant. And like, as I'm sitting with her, I'm like, I just don't know where ADHD comes from, like I just don't see that presenting that much. And then what she wanted help for was like managing some behaviors with like her son. Her son was also going to therapy. And then, but then the way her life had been was like parents down in Mexico, they're separated. Mom was really shaming her a lot through her childhood. She's bouncing back and forth to Mexico and then another state, right? And so it was like everything in me not to be based on all the things that were said. And I guess I'm not going to just share everything, the whole story, but I just want to be like, you have so much trauma and shame, and I think we should start there, And so it was like, ultimately I can still diagnose her with that.
I mean, we
And
just want you to skip to the end so we know what the bullet is.
Right. I can diagnose her with that, but I don't know what that does because she came in and told me that she wants to work on this. So that's what my goal. That's whatever she wants. And, that's my initial goal. And then my secondary goal is to maybe get her out of an abusive home. So, which is tough. I mean, that's tough, right? Like, what do you do? Like,
Is that what the book tells you to do?
that's what the book tells you to do. I don't really know a book that tells you what to do specifically. Even with all that schooling, there's not
We have books that tell us
say
what to do
all these
specifically.
different
You
things.
just
Yeah.
ignore it.
Right.
Do whatever you want.
I don't know. Saw a post the other day. I don't stop talking. But I saw the post the other day that was on like one of the mental health Facebook groups that I'm a part of. And it was like, I'm just finishing up my MSW and how am I supposed to remember everything that I was taught? And then, you go to the comment threads.
I think, is that the one I got kicked out of?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I'm still in it.
Yeah, right. But they're like, You're supposed to remember stuff from college. These are your clinicians that you're meeting with, right? So that's where the books go.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's, I think some parallels, right, between our universe and then some things that are just different and governed by different things that I think it would be terrible if everybody was able to just do whatever they wanted because ultimately, like, biases, right?
Right, yeah.
Confirmation biases and things like that where
One of
there's
my
many people
favorite
that I've met that
topics.
I'm like, don't ever run your own place.
One of my very favorite topics, biases.
Yeah.
And not bias voltage, biases.
Yeah. So,
I guess I would, bias voltage is a good conversation too, but
do you have anything else? 'Cause I'm
I mean, I could
bed.
talk to you for an hour, literally. Like I almost have literally.
Yeah.
I mean it when I say it,
I think,
even though it's convenient.
yeah. Ready to go have some cereal and watch our show.
Okay. Sold. Thank you for joining me for episode 250.
Nice new
Episode
podcast
quarter
title.
of 1,000.
Wow.
Yes.
Significant.
It's so significant when I say it that way.
Yes.
Now,
Woohoo.
you weren't so excited before. And
I know, I'm-
now all of a sudden
wow.
you're like, no, you want to talk for
Holy
another
shit.
hour? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, children. This is like G-rated,
Is it?
PG-13.
Oh.
I'm not sure what it's
Shoot.
rated.
Who wants to hear adults talk PG?
I don't know.
Oh.
Kids? I don't know.
Kids, if you're listening
Fans
to
of
this,
Mr.
I'm
Rogers'
sorry.
Neighborhood,
Yeah.
like me, and joy of painting. And yes, wholesome entertainment.
Drugs are bad. Don't do drugs. So that's my...
Well, that takes me back to a conversation about them being a solution, just riddled with some severe repercussions. Anyways, thank you very much. Seriously, thank you for joining me and celebrating this milestone.
You're welcome.
And thank you all for listening. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Autel and Pico Technology. Thank you to the Automotive Repair Podcast Network for evidently letting me get away with almost anything. If there's really any topics you'd like me to cover or you want to be on the podcast, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm very easy to find. Except by the hackers, they've left me alone now. So, mattfonslowpodcast@gmail.com. Otherwise, social media, I'm somewhere trolling somebody.
Yeah, I'm like, where are you?
I mean, people say social media is so bad, and I think it's the greatest thing ever.
I know.
For real. Thank you again. And until next time, take care.
You've been listening to Automotive Field Theory with Matt Fanslow on the Automotive Repair Podcast Network. Download our exclusive podcast app at arpn.app because the best conversations in the industry start here. Want Matt to cover a specific topic? Well, check the show notes for his email. Your input matters.